All right, here we go. Week 6 breakdown. Hope you guys had a good weekend. I'm going to go matchup by matchup and kind of call out what I saw in each of them, and maybe it's interesting, maybe not, but that's what we're going to do this week. JD, second loss in a row. I finally got another win after a loss, so I'm at 3-4, working toward 500. So is JD. I think looking at the matchup, he got 29 out of Brady. And then 19 out of Charkandrick West, but his receivers just suck. Kamar Aiken, Jamison Crowder, Doug Baldwin combined gave him 9 points out of 3 receivers. So he seems to have some running back talent, but the receivers are weak, where I am in the other direction. All kinds of receivers. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 receivers over 15 points. Unfortunately, I can only start 3 receivers. So, but I did decide to start Julian Edelman, or bench Julian Edelman in exchange for Rashad Matthews. Edelman got 7.5 points. Matthews got 17.5. And in the end, that was pretty much the difference in the game. I got a little better defense points, and again, a good performance out of Gronk, my tight end, who's been my saving grace. So 110 points gets me the win this week. Brett Simons versus Dan Smith. Dan Smith on a 4-game win streak. He started 1-2 and has not lost since. Riding Danny Woodhead this week and the Rams D, both over 25 points. He had, of his 7 bench spots, 6 were on bye. So Dan ended up getting the win. He only put up 87, but it was enough to beat Brent, who put up 84.5. Brent is in pretty rough shape here. Arian Foster put up 25.5, but is now gone for the season. So his kind of injury woes continue over there for Brent's team. So it looks like some people are going to be getting a win when they get to play him. If Frank Gore can step up, we'll see what happens. But he did have Tannehill on his bench, who's been playing out of his mind. So I'm sure he'll start Tannehill going forward, and that might help him out. So good luck, Brent. Not looking good for you, though, bud. Terry Raven, Greg Williams, T. Raven putting up 123 points. Terry's been on a tear and on a 2-game win streak, but just putting up a lot of points. 25 out of Rivers, 29 out of Gurley. Chris Ivory only put up 12. He's dinged up now, so he's been relying on Ivory a lot this season. That may not be there for him. T.Y. Hilton put up 33 points in kind of garbage time mostly. But other than that, not a lot of depth there for Terry. So if he gets into some bye week trouble, it'll be interesting to see if he can keep putting up these big points. Greg Williams, consistent from a lot of people, then he got some zeros. Dorial Green, Beckham, Torrey Smith, tough to win when you're getting 0. Darren McFadden on his bench with 23 points. I don't think anybody could have saw that coming, but if Randall continues to be hurt, looks like McFadden's the back, and he could also all of a sudden find himself with a running back 1. Let's see here. Tommy Brown and John Crosby. Good chatter in this one. Tom and John were going back and forth on the smack board all weekend. And Tom got the win, 132.5. I think that's our high for the week. Go back and check. Yep, Tommy with the high score for the week at 132.5. John put up just 87 points. So since Charles went down, John has had a hell of a time putting up points. He did have A.J. Green and Gio Bernard on bye this week. And Jordan Reed put up 24.5 on his bench. But it still wouldn't have been enough to beat Tom. 42.5 from Lamar Miller. And then just good consistent play anywhere else. Nowhere else over 20, but 15, 12, 13, 19, 11.5. Everybody's putting up points for him. And he's got a little bit of depth. Chris Johnson was on his bench with 18 points and John Brown at 14. So Tom is going to be a force to be reckoned with going forward for sure. He's sitting at 2-5, but he's got the talent to maybe get up in a position to get in the playoffs. Brian Lord getting the win. 2-game win streak for Brian at 105 points this week over the low score of the week at 78 points with Scott Mayo. Scott is at 3-4 with a lot of us just under 500. Got 27 out of Andrew Luck, but really not much anywhere else. Brian, nobody huge. 18 out of Stafford, 10 out of Forsett, 12 out of Kendall Wright, 18 out of Allen Robinson, 13 out of his D, 11 out of his kicker. Just kind of a yeoman's work there for Brian in the win. taking him over 500 to 4-3. And finally, Brian Moore staying on a roll. Brian started the year with a loss, 0-1. Since that time, he has won 6 in a row, and I don't like it one bit. 108 he put up this week. Left a few points on his bench. Brandon Cooks put up 11. TJ Yeldon had 17.5. So good running back depth for Brian is keeping him ahead of the league. Nobody else really has that kind of depth at running back. He's managing to get points from his receivers. We'll see what happens going forward, but I don't know. He's pretty good. It's going to be tough to beat Brian. On the other side of that, Josh, 4-game losing streak. After starting out 3-0, Josh was on a tear. He has since gone winless in the last 4. He's 2 games behind in the West Division. Really, just his kicker was on bye, so this is just his team. Carlos Hyde isn't getting it done for him. Shady McCoy only put up 10 points for him. Negative points out of his defense. This week, the defense has really let people down. So we'll see if Josh can get it turned around. But at this point, 4-game losing streak, he could definitely use a win for self-confidence alone. This week coming up, let's see if we got any big battles between top teams here. Dan Smith, I got to try to beat Dan Smith, and I don't know. He's been putting up a lot of points. We'll see if I can get it done. Terry Raven, probably going to get over top of Brent Simons. John Crosby and Brian Lord, both at 4-3, playing each other. T. Brown trying to dig out of the basement against Greg Williams, who hasn't been putting many up, so we'll see what happens. That leaves Josh Brown and John Lord in the brother battle, and Mayo against Brian Moore. Projected totals in that one, not looking good for Mayo, but we'll see what happens. Good luck this week, guys. Halloween coming up. I'll post some front page stuff. Hopefully you get out and have some fun with the kids. And if anybody's into it, we're talking about doing like a haunted house thing out by Kingsley Friday night, or doing something Halloween on Friday night. Mandy and I are going to leave the kids at home and get out for dinner and go do something like that. So if anybody's up for it, let us know. We'd love to get together. Talk to you soon, guys.